It would seem as though.
Hi, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Hi. I'm fine. How are you?
So good. So good.
So very tired. That's how I am.
Yeah.
I barely can keep my eyes open to do this podcast. Thank God nobody's looking at me also because
real.
my hair is a mess today.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to go do my hair before I come over to Annika's house. And I thought, why?
Yeah.
It's just Annika. She didn't give a shit how my hair looks.
I mean, do you see how I usually do the podcast?
Yeah.
Usually like how I woke up. Like,
Right.
looking good.
I woke up
Today,
like
I have
this.
full face makeup on.
You do have a full face of makeup on and you look beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Unlike the rest of the time where you look hideous.
Hideous, I know. Tell me about that.
You know, that's funny. I was thinking about that on the way here.
Mm-hmm. How beautiful I am.
You know, the trip
so
over.
welcome.
No, it will, yes. But also, the whole thing of why women, specifically, and probably men too, but I can't speak to that, allow societal norms or whatever to make us feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty enough, not smart enough, not good enough, because somebody's going to be more, whatever it is. You know, and there's a quote from Ani DeFranco that's like, and I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm not going to say it's a quote. It's from one of her songs about you don't want to be the prettiest girl because everyone hates the prettiest girl in the room because, you know, they're all jealous. It's like, and when I heard her say that, I thought, I don't ever hate the prettiest girl in the room because I don't care. I'm not comparing myself to her going, oh, if only I looked like her, if only I had her face, figure, whatever it is, hair, I don't care. Because I compare myself to me, and it's like, okay, you can do better.
Well, and also, prettiest
You
girl in
know.
the room, like, who is she? Like, and what are we considering the prettiest girl in the room? Because, to me...
Well, there's that, too, because of the whole beauty standards. Who or what?
Right,
you
well,
know?
and that's the thing is, I think a lot of conventional, like, attractiveness is very bland. I think it's very boring, you know? So, I think that... I read this book one time, and it was talking about how the heart of beauty is fear, right? It's something that strikes you. It's something that's, like, shocking. And so, if things are kind of weird, or things are striking, it's like, if it makes you feel a thing, it's more memorable, right? And I always felt like people who are what we consider, not us, but society, Western society, you know, the blonde, blue-eyed, white people, to be pretty thin. Yeah, right? To be curvy, but not fat, but to be healthy and not thin. You know what I mean? All the things.
Right.
I think it's just boring. And everyone kind of looks the same at some point. Do you know what I mean? And we talk about this with the 90s hunks. You know what I mean? They all they're all the same. They're all the same person.
They're all interchangeable.
So I think I don't like... It's my own personal thing. When people say, oh, you look pretty. In my head, I'm like, thanks. But, like, I'd much rather be, like, striking. You know what I mean? I'd much rather be, like...
Beautiful.
Stunning. I would much rather be something that's not just, like, based on, like, oh, you're so pretty. Like, no, I want to be, like, oh, holy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I want.
This morning on the way to school, I was listening to Leslie Jones' memoir, which is called Leslie fucking Jones.
I love that.
Which I love. But she was talking about how, as a young woman, when she learned that, like, because one of her friend's mothers, I'm guessing white girl, called her Blackie.
Ooh.
And she's a little girl, didn't know that was a thing, didn't know she was being racist, didn't know she was being hateful, until her mama had to tell her. And her mother was, like, brokenhearted to have to tell her little girl, these people are being hateful.
Being problematic.
Well, it was then she was like, well, am I ugly? Am I this? You know, it's like started all the doubt of, well, I'm so dark, does that mean I'm ugly?
Bad,
Was it, or right, because I'm not pretty like the other girls who, you know, whatever. She's also a big girl. She's, I think she's your height, or a little taller, but she's also, you know,
she's thick,
big girl.
Yeah.
But she was talking about how, you know, she now sees it kind of as her duty in life to, when she sees young black girls, to be like, you know what, you're gorgeous. You're going to make whatever you want of your life. You know, it's like, it may be rough now, but it's going to get better and you're going to be amazing.
Yeah. And I know earlier you asked when we started this, like, why does women or society, why do we allow society to put like all the standards and the rules and make us feel bad, and and I think it's easier to stand out and to be seen as trying to fit in, right? If you're fat, if you're too dark, if you're too queer, if you're too whatever, if you are that, but people can see you trying to dress right, trying to be, whatever it is, right, straight, white, whatever, being the ideal, it's less abrasive for you as the person being shit on to for in that scenario, opposed to like being yourself and standing out and like being okay with that. And either way, it's the same to the person who's like being a mean ass to you, right? The person who's bullying you doesn't really care whether you're trying or not. They're gonna be a dickhead to you no matter what.
Right.
And so I think that's the liberating thing. I think that realizing that no matter what you do or how you act, like someone's always going to say something, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Like, do whatever you want. But I think in the realm, in like our psyche, for the person who is othered, if we are seen as like working on being straighter, whiter, better, you know what I mean? Then
it's more acceptable.
It's more acceptable in our minds, right? Like, oh, we are different, but at least we're trying. But in the bully's mind, in the person who's the oppressor, they don't give a shit. You're still just the other,
Right.
So
no, I get that. Well, and the other thing, kind of the catalyst for her, telling young girls that they're smart enough, beautiful, whatever, is when she was very young, she was in school, she met this woman a black woman who she just thought was so incredibly beautiful. Mm-hmm. Her skin was just radiant and gorgeous and dark like hers, and she was just beautiful. And she asked this woman, she's like, do you think I will ever be as pretty as you? And the woman looked her in the eyes and said, you will be more beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's like, for that powerful message for a young girl who's already thinking they're not pretty enough, and they're the woman who they think is kind of the ideal of beauty says, oh, you're going to be more beautiful than me. What a powerful message.
That's crazy. Yeah, I can imagine.
And as you were talking about trying to be more socially acceptable to people, it makes me think it's a whole conversation I had recently at work, where I was talking to one of my friends and clients who's a little bit younger than me, but not much. She's in her 50s, and was talking about how the sex workers, and I don't remember if I talked about this with you, the sex workers in her neighborhood were all big girls.
Oh, and no one wants to see that.
And nobody wants to see all that. And it's like, you don't want to see that because it's your own internalized fat phobia.
Yeah.
Because you're a fat girl.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to see other people being fat and free.
And how funny to say that. Like, they're clearly sex workers. That's clearly their gig. Clearly somebody wants to see it. Like, why? What a dumb fucking blanket statement.
And that was my first thought is, if they dressed this way and didn't have any success being a sex worker, they would change.
Agreed.
And there is something for everyone. Yeah. And if there's some man out there who's going to go, I like me a thick girl who's confident in showing her flesh. And there's always going to be someone who's like, ew, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
But it's like, then don't look.
Yeah, then don't
That's
look.
always kind of been my thing is like, if you're offended by the fact that I show skin or that I wear a short skirt or whatever, don't look.
I just,
completely fuck off. Look the other way. Do whatever. It's like, but it's when you realize that it's your own internalized, like, well, I've been told my whole life that I'm not good enough because I'm fat. How dare she, as a fat woman, feel free and liberated and show that stuff that I was never allowed to show, you know, or I wouldn't allow myself to show because someone was going to say, oh, look how fat you are. Look, you're going to dress like that?
I would say that, like, no matter what, whatever it is, if you don't like it, then don't look at it. But, like, why do you feel the need to say something about it? Because I think that if you're a human being and you're existing in the world and then you see a fat person or a gay couple kissing or black people being black in public, whatever, and you're triggered by that, I think that says way more about you than does anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, you're stunted as a human being. You don't know how to navigate the world as a whole. You can't, just the ins and outs of daily life with a diverse group of people, you can't handle it without being triggered. That's weak. You know what I mean? Like, that's patheticism to me. Like, that is unbelievably nonsensical because the fact that you can't be around somebody else and you want to tout being better, stronger, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, but you can't be around other people who have been systemically othered by the nation by society and you can't do it, that's not strength to me. It's like the people being like, well, wearing a mask when COVID was a thing is living in fear, right? Well, if wearing a mask is living in fear, then what the fuck is carrying a gun? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
It doesn't, I think being like, well, fuck science, I'm not gonna, it makes you look stupid, not strong. And stupidity isn't like something that we should strive to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was so much of that. So much of the, well, you're just all sheep because you're doing this thing that they tell you to do. Okay, worst case scenario, if wearing the mask didn't do any good, it also didn't do any harm.
Right.
You know? And though I'm certainly not a scientist, I can tell you just from what I witnessed when everybody was wearing masks, flu season was almost non-existent. You know?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until we were all not wearing masks
Let loose.
that everybody started getting colds and flus and stuff again. It's like, well, yeah, because now we're all breathing on each other and spitting on each other and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so...
That's my beef, though, girl. When people say dumb shit, like, well, the science has changed, so science is clearly fallible. Like, yeah, that's the point of science, right? Like,
it's always changing.
Doctors at one point told you smoking was good for you. The only means to, like, make someone feel better for a long time was, like, bloodletting. Like, science changes and medical information changes with more information. Like, that's how that happens. You gain more information, then you change your theories.
Right.
Like, it's not foolproof, but it's more so than your fucking stupid ideology about your God and how he wouldn't give you a plague because, you know what I mean, because he loves you or whatever.
So, if that's your argument, have you read the Bible? Did you read about the 10 plagues of Egypt?
Right.
You know, because it's right there. I just actually was reading about that yesterday because for some reason it came up, the kids were talking about it, and I don't remember why, but I was like, yeah, there was, you know, and I thought it was 10, and then I looked it up, and it was indeed 10 plagues, which the next one was just more horrific than the one before it. But it was like, your God, who Old Testament was, you know, an angry, vengeful God, did indeed put plagues on the world. And it wasn't like, you know, I realize some of you people are innocent in this particular crime, and that crime that this is specifically talking about was the enslavement of Hebrews. And there, I mean, it's like I said, one thing was just worse than the next. It was like lice springing up from the ground, and it was like everywhere there was dust, there was lice.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I would just myself then, because the idea of lice being everywhere.
You know, it sounds like a war crime. That sounds like collective punishment. But
but
what
it was
do
like,
I know?
You know, raining frogs, and then the water all turning to blood, so you couldn't drink the blood or drink the water. Or it's like one thing, and then the last plague, the 10th plague, was that all firstborn males would be killed.
That's the whole Passover tradition.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you put blood on your door frame,
like a goat or something.
Yeah. Then the angel of death would pass over you. See, and it's like, so.
Okay.
So if your whole notion is that you're loving God, which, by the way, that whole notion is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
The idea of some deity, and I know I've said this a million times, who is just sitting up there going, you know, Annika is causing some trouble today. I'm going to go smite her. You think with billions of people in the world, this omnipotent power is like going, she needs some smiting today. Those people over there, they definitely need smiting. There's like, or whatever it is, it's like, it's ridiculous. But then in the same vein, it's also ridiculous to think that you say, you know, help me through this, God, blah, blah, blah. The God's like, oh, okay. Well, clearly Janice over here needs help paying her bills, so
God's a monster, dude.
I look at the gods of mythology and think they make much more sense to me because they have so many human characteristics. They are flawed. But they're like jealous. They're angry. They're whatever. And it's like, and powerful. Because power corrupts.
Well, and here's the thing. They're not only powerful, they're immortal, right? And And the thing that I find so interesting about so many of the ancient gods, and we're going to stick with Greek because it's my jam, but like, they're fallible like humans are fallible, but they don't have... Think about being immortal. Everything that's the mortal life and things that you cared about would die away because, you know what I mean? You wouldn't have an end to your life. So it's interesting that a lot of the ancient gods still have this human fallibility. They're still, you know, adulterers and killing people and being jealous and pissed off and angry and whatever. But they're immortal. Like, it's such a contradiction, but it makes more sense. Like, why not humanize your gods? Because I've been saying recently, with everything happening in the world, and this is just kind of my belief in religion in general, full stop, anymore, is that if your God in your scripture, your belief system, your doctrine tells you that you to be safe, to be chosen, to be saved, you know, to go to heaven or whatever, if he tells you that in order for this, other people need to be harmed or displaced, or so many other thousands of people need to die for you to be saved, then you aren't worth saving, and your God isn't worth worshiping.
Well, especially if part of your salvation is oppression.
Girl.
And it seems now
yeah.
that... And I heard someone put it very, very well yesterday, saying that it's an entitled minority.
Mm-hmm.
The people who think the rest of the world needs to bow to their beliefs to make the world what it needs to be is an entitled minority.
Yep.
Because it was Jinx Monsoon. I was listening to an interview because she's now doing Little Shop of Horrors, playing Audrey off Broadway. And the man interviewing her said, do you think, you playing this part, do you think that means that we're progressing as a people? And she said, well, of course. You know, the fact that I did this and I got to be in Chicago, and then she started listing other people like Peppermint and different people who have done these Broadway type things and, you know, whatever. She said, the world is ready for it. It's just that entitled minority who wants to scream and shout about it because they see their grasp on things getting more and more tenuous. And they're like, well, what are we going to do to control this? Well, we're going to buy more senators or buy more Congress people or whatever so that we can keep our control that they are very clearly losing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but we're going to try and control everything. We're going to try to put our laws on everybody else's bodies. We're going to try to make illegal the things that we don't understand, like being queer or being trans or being a drag queen. You know, it's like, because these things are dangerous because we say so. Yeah. Because we don't understand them. We don't like them. And we've been taught all our lives they're wrong. So we can't question that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's mostly tiresome to me that people, and it's just time immemorial, the kind of usage of religion to be like, well, this is why I'm a hateful cunt, is because my God told me to. Then your God fucking sucks, girl. If your God is that hateful, then grow up.
Right.
Like, we teach school children to share and be kind and be civil, and you know what I mean? And you don't expect that same bullshit from your fucking God? Like, that is, and I felt this always, even as a youth, because I told you before, I thought adults were stupid as a kid. I just didn't realize how dire it was. But I feel, since youth, I've always felt that people who were devoutly religious were dumb. And I know that's not the right way to think, but it was just my experience with religious people. That
whether
they
it's
were
right
stupid.
or not, that's how you thought.
That's how I thought. And there is a lot of it that I'm like, how do you believe this shit? And like, how are you not ripping your hair out? Because a lot of the time, if you're a religious person and you're not like the rest of them, the ones who are hateful and outspoken and shitty and hate the queers and whatever, you're still associated with, right? Because people are like, oh, you're Christian, right? It's not just like, oh, here's the hateful Christians. Like, Christianity is an ugly name now. Do you? I mean, it kind of should have been because of all the shit that it's done. But I do feel if you're an educated person or you have life experience or you see the shit that religion has done, how do you remain? Like, how are you steadfast in your religiosity, going to church or praying or even like trying to convert somebody? It doesn't make any sense to me, because have you seen the world at large? Have you seen how religious people treat each other? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I think there's more things you could be doing with your life. Plant some fucking trees. Go save some wildlife. I don't know. There's other tangible things that will actually help the planet and the people, opposed to you getting on your knees at an altar and crying about it. Like, nobody cares.
Separating parents and children at the border and putting them in cages, not Christian? I mean, the bombing nations because they believe differently than you and you want their land, whatever it is. Yeah, the most important ideology of Christianity was supposed to be the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
I guarantee the shit that they've pulled over all these, centuries is not how anybody would have them do unto them.
No.
The fact that I condemn you for your lifestyle, it's like, well, then do you want someone to condemn you because they don't understand your lifestyle?
Yeah.
Do you want someone to go, well, she's with a person of color, so obviously she's wrong. She's with, another woman, so she's wrong. It's like, whatever it is, you are judge and jury, although in the Bible, and people, by the way, Christians hate it when you throw their own shit at them.
Yeah, because
they say, in the Bible it says, judge not, lest ye be judged.
Yeah.
The only judge is God.
Yeah.
So you can't judge people, and you're not supposed to. And it also says, love your neighbor like you love yourself. Well, the problem is, they don't love themselves.
Ooh, girl.
That, I think, right there
it.
sums it up. They don't love themselves, because if they did, they wouldn't be so worried about what the people next door were doing.
Yep.
Unless the people next door are, building bombs and selling crack, then you don't need to worry about it.
Bitch, maybe that is how they show love. Maybe how they show love is through anger, is through violence. How many people, we grew up in a small town, bitch. How many people say, I love you and hate you? How many people say, I love you and use violence against you? Like, that is all domestic violence. Do you know what I mean? So maybe these people who are like, don't follow that rule, but that maybe they are. Maybe that's how they show love. Because, again, how many people do we know who were told I love you and then were hit?
Right. I was talking about that very thing the other day, how my grandmother was one of the coolest people I knew. I mean, she was like this tough talking, cursing, smoking, drinking, hunting, all those things. And she was a tough lady.
Yeah.
But she put up for her entire life with a man who abused her.
Ugh, that would kill
Why? What did you think, because your parents were abusive, that's just life, and you had to put up with that? Did you think that, well, I married this guy, so I'm stuck with him? What was the thing in you that made you say, I can be like this in every other aspect of my life, but I got to put up with this man who beats me? Because I know for a fact that her mother was beaten by her husband.
Girl, but...
by the way, my great-grandmother was a big woman, and her husband was a little tiny man.
On crutches.
Who would beat her with his crutches.
Yeah, I would have broke him. But the thing is, girl, that clearly was passed down to our family. What woman in our family has been like, oh, I met this man, and the one man that I met, and I've always had such good relationship with men. Like, nobody. Not a single person in our life.
No.
And we stayed with men for the dumb reasons. You know what I mean? And we're strong, vocal, independent women. And yet we stayed with dumb fucking men because why?
It's interesting that you say that, because I've always said, you lay a hand on me, we're done. You touch me in that kind of way ever, even once.
Yeah.
That's the end of that. And no one ever has.
Yep.
Because they apparently, though they were stupid, they weren't that stupid.
Yeah.
And you cheat on me, and we're done. Yeah. Those apparently were my limit, but everything else,
was fine.
You could treat me poorly.
Yep.
You could do whatever. You could be mean to me, and whatever. As long as you didn't hit me or cheat on me, we're good. And it's like, I had to look at that one day and go, why? Why is this the only place where I'm going to then evict you from my life?
Yep.
If you are not good enough, if you are not...
Full stop.
If you don't treat me the way that I deserve to be treated, and I get to decide how I deserve to be treated, not you. And if you can't live up to that, then you shouldn't be there.
Bye.
Right.
It's been fun.
And I've been telling my children since they were old enough to understand words that I don't care who you date. I don't care... if you date. They said, but if you do, make sure it's someone who treats you properly, and that you treat them properly, because it goes both ways. But if it's someone who is not respectful of you and is not nice to you and is not in any circumstance, then that's not the person you should be with. And
continue.
I was just going to say, so kind of looping back to listening to Leslie Jones, I then Grace said to me in the car right before I dropped her off something about feeling like, did she feel, why did she not feel good enough? And I was like, well, most people don't. And I said, but let me ask you this. Do you think you're smart? And she said, yes. And I said, do you think you're beautiful? She said, yes. And I go, do you think you can do anything? Mm-hmm. She said, yes. And I go, well, then you're set.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that you're smart, you believe you're beautiful, you believe you can do anything, nobody can tell you different.
Yeah, honestly.
And if nobody can tell you different, then you're not going to put up with someone going, well, you're dumb.
Honestly.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
No, you're dumb for even talking to me in that kind of manner. But it's like, it has to be that somebody has built that core up inside of you, which clearly didn't happen for either one of us growing up. And so we put up with nonsense and stupidity. And
girl, it is crazy to me, not only, like, being who we are. Granted, as a youth, I wasn't as, I'm Miss Independent. I was very shy, right?
Yes.
But once I got past that and was able to, like, grow into myself, it has always shocked me because I'm also victim to it too. But, like, Grandma, your grandmother, her mother, like, all of these women, Tracy, your sister, how many times... Well, all of us have been strong in our life, have done a lot of things, have been brave and stood up to shit and, like, you know what I mean? Held our own, whatever. But then men come along and we let them do whatever as long as they don't hit us or cheat on us.
Right.
Girl, and Tracy, not even that. You know what I mean?
No.
But, like...
Absolutely not. Her, yes, she was an alcoholic. And so I'm going to say there was that thing too. But it was that... As long as she had a man, he could do pretty much anything.
Anything, right? And it's shocking to me that how we're like, no Miss Thing, I wear what I want, I say what I want, I do what I want. We now we're with this man, and immediately we just start fawning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We become like...
Yeah.
And not that we're not... I mean, I don't know. We get... Our sparkle diminishes. Do you know what I mean? And we start, like... Whatever we'll make the best of this situation, right? Like, we'll take care of you. We'll make sure the bills are paid. We'll, deal with your fucking mood swings. We'll deal with you yelling. We'll deal with whatever. But as long as you don't cheat or hit us. Like that, girl, we needed to raise our standards a long time ago.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you.
At this point, there's no way. I would much rather just not be with somebody. Do you know what I mean? I would much rather live here next to y'all and have my animals and that's it. Like, I would... Because it's tiresome. And we've talked about this before, but the older I get, I love my man, I love your husband, I love Parker, but I don't care about anyone else. Do you know what I mean? And I don't center men ever anymore. I think about how this will affect my family, yes, but I don't ever think about men in the same way that I used to. A lot of girls get into relationships and all they can talk about is their man. All they can talk about is their relationship, what they're doing, how they're doing, X, Y, and Z. And if that person is no longer in a relationship, their personality is non-existent. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I don't have energy, time, or want with that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of reason why I can't talk to a lot of people.
But I've also experienced it where when those people aren't in relationships is when they blossom and when they sparkle and whatever, and then they get in a relationship and it's all dulled down.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I need to only be focused on this. I need to make myself smaller. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I need to not outshine the person I'm with.
Yeah.
And it's like, baloney.
Girl.
I see now, being an old lady now and having been through terrible relationships, I can tell you that when I met my husband and... I was like, this is how someone's supposed to treat you. Mm-hmm. This is the way it's supposed to be. And that's not saying we don't have issues. Everybody does.
Sure.
Most of ours are communication stuff. But he never is disrespectful to me. And he never is, whatever. Makes me feel less than. Mm-hmm. But I realized that I had always settled for, this guy's
he loves
here.
Me. Mm-hmm.
He's breathing. He loves
whatever,
me, and he says he loves me,
yeah.
and so I guess that's enough.
Yep.
And it never was.
No,
And I look at like my first husband, and I'm not going to say he was a bad person. He was bad for me.
Yeah.
And maybe he was a bad person. I can't say but he was bad for me. We were not a good match in any way.
Yeah,
but he was. So I think his own fragility from the way he was raised was, I need to make sure that I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm whatever than you. It's like, why?
Why do you
Why is that important? Why?
Weird.
I would never say, well, I'm smarter than you are. You know, it's like, there are areas in my life where I know more than you.
For sure.
Of course.
Sure.
But, of course, in my life, it tends to be things that aren't very important. Like, I know more about movies and music and whatever. Don't ask me about science or math because, not my thing. But I also never would wield my knowledge or my superiority or whatever it is as a weapon.
It's stupid.
It's like, I know the talents that I have. I'm clear on what I know and what I do and what I can do. Like, I know that my stage talent is better than a lot of people, but I would never go up and go, well, that's cute that you want to do a show with me, but I'm better than you. So no, it's like, no.
Fuck off. Yeah.
No. And even at that, there is someone who is going to look at me and go, well, I don't want to watch this fat bitch on stage.
Sure.
Whatever. And so...
It goes back to no one wants to see that.
But it also is, there's, the whole there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
And you trying to make someone else feel less than so that you can feel more than, it's like, clearly you're not.
Make that make sense.
If you have to squash somebody else down to build yourself up, then you clearly have your own issues that you need to look at.
And girl, talking about this, it goes for literally everything, because what you just said, like, if you need to, talk shitty to somebody, bring someone down to feel better, then you need to work on shit. That's the same. It's the same thing about me being like, if you have to slaughter thousands of people to be saved, then you're not worth being saved.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you need to do some intrinsic digging around. You need to excavate some of that shit, bitch, because it's not good for you. Take the scene from The Exorcist. They, excavate, they find Pazuzu, and he just haunts a bitch. Like, you need to get Pazuzu out of your bitch. You know what I mean? Because clearly you're acting real ugly about it. About people diminishing ourselves. There's a quote, and I probably won't get it right, but it's the no longer shrink myself down, make myself bite-sized. Like, I'll keep myself whole and you can choke. Like, I love that. I will not making myself bite-sized or making myself smaller so people will feel comfortable. Or that's so stupid to me. First of all, me making myself smaller, LOL, bitch, what? I'm 6 foot, 6'1", good luck, But I don't think that I absolutely can.
You think about that as a child.
Yeah. That
you were always the tallest child wherever you went. Mm-hmm. People always thought you were older and expected you to act older. Mm-hmm. And you did indeed try to make yourself smaller. Try to shrink back so that people didn't notice you. Until like you said, grew into yourself, and then you're like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, I am this big bitch.
Yeah.
I am all of the things. Yeah. And if you see this or that in me, whatever. Yeah. That's your thing, not mine.
Yeah, 100.
You know.
Yeah.
So that whole thing. The other thing I like is the quote, as the thing, and I've heard it a billion times on TikTok, is you tell me I'm too much. Mm-hmm. Am I too much, or are you not enough?
That's it. Yeah.
Yep. If you feel like I am too much, then it's probably that you're not enough. Yep. If you feel threatened by me because I am proud and I am confident and I am free, then look at yourself.
Yeah.
Why does that challenge you?
Yeah.
Because you don't feel like, as a woman, as a fat person, as an old person, or as a whatever person, that you have that right to feel those things about yourself. And then why?
Yep.
Why do you feel that way? How were you raised? How were you conditioned?
Right. Well, and there are people, like, maybe we do too much, but there are people who actually... the people who talk consistently and have nothing to say. Like, you're doing too much. And when I think people are doing too much, it's mostly when they're being fucking annoying. You know what I mean? It's 90% personality based. It's you're a one-upper being like, well, I did that and I did it better. Or I was sick and I died. You know what I mean?
Right. By the way, whenever I'm talking about people like that, or people in general, when it's kind of you have this kind of carbon cutout of somebody who's like, you know somebody, and I will say to someone, I will go, I was talking to so-and-so who did this, and I go, well, you know that person, because everybody knows that person.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than you,
yeah,
or I'm better, or if you've done it, I've done it twice.
Or if your life was hard, mine's harder. Yeah.
If you're smart, I'm smarter.
That's
if you're broken, I'm brokener. Yeah. I'm more broken than you can ever... it's like, whatever it is, I have to win.
And I just want to know why. Like, what happened to you that makes you feel the need to be in competition continuously with everything everyone says. Like, how are you not just exhausted? How are you not napping? Because if your brain's overdrive, being like, okay, well, they said they lost their arm. Well, I lost both my arms and 6 members of my family. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't... you're always trying to... And is it true then? Are you being honest? Or are you just being... You're being dishonest for show. You know what I mean? And what's the point of any of it?
Right.
I don't understand.
No, because you trying to one-up someone to the negative or to the positive.
Yeah.
Why? What is it
Right.
going to gain you
Mm-hmm.
other than an annoying reputation of being the person who nobody wants to be around?
Yeah.
Because, like, it's so funny because one of the people I know like that was somebody that T used to work with. This woman who, I swear to God, if you said, well, I did this thing and I walked 10 miles.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm double jointed, so it's basically I walk 20 miles.
Yeah.
Because every step I take is like 2 steps for everyone else.
Every step...
Literally, she said that
she's
one
watching
time.
you.
Every step I take is like everyone else's 2 steps for, it's like, so you,
Is that-
what? So
That's
everything
so-
I do is basically double what you
Is
do.
that how the human body
That's
works?
not how double jointed works. But it was like, if you got the flu, she had the flu and pneumonia.
Oh, of course.
If whatever it was, if you graduated from college, she graduated with 16, whatever degrees,
Yeah.
and it's like,
It makes me
oh
think
my God, shut up.
of the Notebook. If you're a bird, I'm a bird. She's like, well, if you're a bird, I'm a pterodactyl. Right. Just no.
Well,
Sorry, I'm
exactly.
better.
It's like,
Yeah.
I have to be better.
It's just so tiring.
And again, like I said in the beginning, I don't feel the need to compare myself to other people.
No.
If you're the prettiest girl in the room, good for you.
Yeah. It's
Good for
usually
you.
me.
I
It's
know.
usually
I know.
me.
It usually is.
I can't help that.
But
And
I don't, and I'm going to even go with you. I don't ever look at you and go, oh God, Annika's so beautiful. I shouldn't probably stand right next to her because someone's going to go, who's that fat lady
Who's
standing
that
next
troll?
to? No,
Yeah.
I don't. That's not how I see the world.
Right.
And it's like, and no one else should either.
Yeah. I don't feel like I have jealousy. I'm trying to think of other women or girls in my life that I've been jealous of. And I don't know. I think maybe because I've, in my adult life and being able to move around and do whatever and living my truth, I feel like I've always thought of myself in a much higher esteem than I thought of, like, and not in like, oh, I don't like you, but it's more like, I don't think that you're better than me, and I don't think that you're prettier
Right.
than me, and I don't,
Right.
you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna be a person like, to some people, I will do the whole, look up and down, size them up. But on average, I'm not going to be a cunt to you. I don't think about you in those terms because I don't care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What,
absolutely.
About what? What are we doing? Are we in competition for prettiness now? Like, am I getting paid for this? Then maybe. But, like, if not, other than you monetizing my prettiness, then I don't care. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like, it doesn't matter to me. And how superficial. I can, not only being in competition with pretty people, but only also feeling the need to interact with pretty people. Like, that to me is like, oh, I can only date people who are 6'5" and above because I'm so tall. You know what I mean? It's really shallow,
Right.
and it really shrinks your pool of people you can interact with, for dating, or if you can only...
It also makes you less interesting.
Oh, 100%.
Because then you're like, you've narrowed everything down so much that it's like, now you're not interesting.
Oh,
so
right.
why do that? Why make yourself less for anybody else?
That's it. If there's something you don't like about yourself, that's fine. And, I've always said that there are parts of you that you have to get rid of. There are parts of you that you have to kill. Do you know what I mean? So other parts can grow in that are healthier, or you find to be better, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, like, there's no need to shrink yourself or be less than who you are for anybody else.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And as we're talking about that, I was thinking about some of the women in my life who, the men in their lives, their fathers, uncles, whoever, conditioned them to feel some way about their body.
Mm-hmm.
And they still do. And I know we've talked about this before. But it's like, if you ever say to some girl who is, a growing up child, well, you should do something about that. You're too fat. You're too this. You're too... What is it about yourself that you are hating on, that you then are taking it out on this young child who is just trying to get through life?
Oh, my God, yeah.
It's like, And I think about specifically like my father and my uncles and whatever who would come up and like grab someone by the side and go,
awful.
Oh, it's getting kind of...
Looks like you gained some weight.
Put on some weight. You better lose some weight. Or one of my friends who her father used to tell her that he would pay her for every pound she lost. And it's like, gross. Why wouldn't you just... Now, the people who say, if you bring home A's on your report card, I'll give you a little extra, something for that. That's just trying to achieve something, but saying, you are not good enough, so if you can come up to my standards, I will then reward you for that. Is gross to me.
Well, and, girl, I want you to know, the thought of saying, I don't even like children. You know this. Everyone knows this. But the thought of saying something so hurtful to a kid that shakes their little psyche is so disheartening to me. And not being a bitch, I've sworn at children. I swear at children all the time.
I know, you call my daughter a bitch all the time.
She's 15. She can
I don't care.
And I've called her a bitch since birth. So,
I know.
And she knows it's her
and
name.
She doesn't care either.
But, like, snarky, you're being, like, saying... But something that is, like, personality or identity shaking is so upsetting to me. Sometimes it makes me sad because I'm, there are moments where I have so much empathy that I see someone's sad face. It basically makes me so sad.
Yes.
It was months ago. I don't even know. It was a day where Grace and I didn't plan to hang out, and she came over to give me mail and then asked if she could hang out. And I said, "Not today, babe." And just the look on her face. She didn't cry or whatever, but just the look on her face for a fleeting moment made me feel like, oh my God, you can move in. Like, you can stay here all the day. Like, it's fine.
You ever have to go home.
I know, and she didn't pout or say, why, whatever. It was none of that, but it was just that moment, and I was like, that's all it takes. You sent me a picture yesterday of Grandma, right?
Yeah.
And she's very bruised and fucked up because she fell somewhere. We don't know the full story, whatever. But she has this little smile on her face, and I told Gavin, it just makes me so sad. Like, this poor woman who doesn't really, she doesn't know how it happened. She doesn't know what's going on, and she just has this sweet smile, and it just makes me sad. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's fucked up, and we're all concerned about it, and we keep asking her, and she's just like, I have no idea. And I don't know, she's still going on the walk, still going out in public, and...
Oh, God, and today she looks even worse.
It's so sad.
Because as the bruises, gravity.
Yeah.
So, as the bruises are healing, the blood is going further down in her face.
Yeah.
And so, listen, my mother is... was it Sunday morning? Sunday morning. I was out doing laundry, and Parker comes out, and he says, Grandma's all bruised up. And I go, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, she has a bruise on her nose. And I was like, is it a bruise, or is it that dark spot she always has there? He goes, no, she's bruised. Well, I came in to look at her, and I was like, holy Jesus, what happened? Mm-hmm. She had a black eye and whatever, and she didn't know what happened. Mm-hmm. But she told me, I had a dream that I fell down when I was up at Safeway, and fell down on the one of those curb things. And I was like, oh, okay. But then, now that is the truth, that she fell at Safeway. But I was like, but when you came home, you didn't have a mark on you. And she has a pretty good scrape down her forehead. But we would have noticed a bloody scrape on her forehead, but whatever. But the next day was worse, and today is even worse. So her whole face now is black and blue.
Yeah, yesterday when I saw it, I was like, wow, it looks like the bags of her eyes go down to, like, her mouth, essentially. Yeah.
Yes, it's very scary.
Yeah.
But you're right. She's just like, when I said to her, I go, perhaps you shouldn't go hang out up at Burger King like you like to every day, because you're going to scare people. Yeah. And I was like, and I'm not worried about their feelings, but I don't want anybody to be freaked out that something has happened to you and they need to call the police or they need to call an ambulance or they need to come, get social workers to, help you out. And it's like, because people are going to look at that and think elder abuse. Yeah. Because why wouldn't you? You see an 85-year-old woman who can barely walk. I mean, she... And I'm going to tell you, she walks every day. But when you watch her walk, it's like, how do you not fall all the time? Because she always looks a little drunk. Mm-hmm. But it was like, people are just going to assume that someone just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah, I know. It's just things like that. And it's little things. It's kind of little moments people have that are just a second long, but it's still... Like, how's she feeling? She's feeling good and fine. When I asked her, how are you feeling? Grandma's like, no, I feel fine. I feel fine. It doesn't hurt. I feel fine. But just, like, in her little noggin, that's all mixed up. How is, I don't know. It just makes me so sad for her,
Yeah.
That's all.
You said you had something you wanted to talk with mental health.
Oh, right. So I went to the doctor last Thursday. And
to take a little hard left here.
Yeah, hard left. Well, I have been on Wellbutrin, which is an antidepressant. This go for a year. I've been on it before several times in my life, whatever, and it's the antidepressant that I like the most. Well, and we talked about this a little bit. The past couple months, I felt a little off, just emotionally. And,
yeah.
And I don't have any stressor, like real life stressor. So, like, why do I feel so wonky? And I made this appointment weeks before we even went on vacation, but the only time they could fit me in was on Thursday. So I went in, talked to my doctor. She was very nice. And mind you, the doctor that I used to have left and went to Allison Fox. She went into like, urgent care, like telephone urgent care for OHSU. And so then I had this other doctor that I saw twice, and now this new one. But she seems to be fine. We talked about it, so she's lowering my Wellbutrin, and I'm starting half my dose of Wellbutrin and then Lexapro on top of it, which is a traditional SSRI, which is like a serotonin.
Okay.
Like heavy. It helps release more serotonin, and you don't absorb it as quickly, so you stay in a more elated mood. And sometimes they use it for mood stabilizers, which, great. So I'm excited. But I was telling my doctor, I was like, listen, I don't know WTF, like help me, because I'm trying to do all the things that they tell you to do. Eat healthy, get more sleep, drink water, work out, make sure you're taking care of yourself, all the things the doctor has ever said to you. I have a mindfulness journal, and like, I've kind of fallen off the wagon with everything since coming back from vacation, but like, before vacation, eating right, working out, you know what I mean? Mindfulness, keeping my house clean, keeping busy all the time, having shit to do. I just graduated, whatever, all the things, looking into school again, whatever. And I don't have any real big stress. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I told her all this, and she was like, the world. Like, there's not much else. How do we... Because it is what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the Congo and Sudan and in Haiti, and what's happening in the United States. People, and I bring this up all the time, people want to say things like, oh, you support Palestine or whatever, then go to Gaza, they'll kill you because you're queer. And I'm like, have you been to the fucking United States? How many hundreds of bills have been presented in legislation to be passed that are against trans people? Like, it's crazy to me. People want to say
and
dumb,
more and more every day.
Stupid fucking cisgender or white gay people want to say really fucking out-of-pocket shit because they think, oh, being a white gay person is the hardest thing that could ever happen to you. And it's literally fucking not. But my point is, the doctor was like, it's hard to be aware of what's happening in the world and maintain good mental health, right? So
which is what you've been saying this whole time.
Yeah, like and the reason I can't look away is because if the Congolese have to live through what they're living through, if the people in Haiti have to live what they're living through, if the people of fucking Gaza have to be bombed regularly, I can at least know about it, right? If all of these people are living through their personal hells, I can at least know. And knowing is hard, right? And that's hard. Oh my God. That's part of the issue with doing a lot of activism, being aware and being an activist, is that it is mentally, it kind of is deteriorating. And so hopefully this medication works. But if you feel a lot of people are down or say the world's on fire or depressed or anxious, it's not going to change currently. There's too much happening and we're all too aware. And the world is so divided about every topic currently that it feels dystopian. And I was telling my doctor, to me it feels like this is an actual nightmare. Like, I'm saying not just me, like, there's a genocide happening and the Western government being like, no, there isn't. It feels like I'm going insane,
Yes.
So then, and then your own life shit and whatever's around us and in our communities, what's happening. But she was like, other than that, and finding a therapist is hard because everyone needs to go to therapy. And so she was like, you're not doing the wrong thing. Because one of the things was, I worked really hard, right? Like, I've survived a lot of shit. I finally graduated, all these things. I'm in this place that's so great. Is this worth it? Did I work so hard to get to this point to feel like this is what life should be? You know what I mean? In my noggin, it feels chaotic. And I think, we heal not to deal with the chaos because we know how to deal with that. We heal to deal with the joy because we don't know how to deal with that, right? And I'm very much there where I don't know how to deal with being okay. Specifically, our sphere, I'm solid, we're good, the family's good, our little compound's great, right? No major struggles, for real. Like, we all have our own personal things, sure. But outside of our little bubble, it's a hellscape. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so trying to balance that, and that's the hardest part, is trying to figure out how to balance what's happening in the world and being aware and being a good humanitarian, being a good citizen of this fucking planet, and maintaining your mental health enough that you can live and be okay. Because right now I can live, I just don't feel like I'm good, you know?
Right.
So hopefully this medication works, but to everyone who feels off or wonky just because of what's happening in the US or what's happening around the world, like, everyone feels this way currently. And I'm not trying to diminish that.
No, of course.
And, you know, I'm an advocate for, like, these are unprecedented times, and we've been living in unprecedented times since 2020 with the protests and the plague and all of this shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always say the world's on fire. The world's always been on fire, yes, but this is the hottest the planet's been, the most populated the planet's been. There are, like, 4 separate wars going on at the same time. Masses of people are being exterminated.
Yeah.
Like, it is really heavy. So take care of you as much as you can. Do what you can to cope, because coping isn't easy. You know what I mean? And don't do things that are going to harm yourself. Find the help you can get, but, like, I don't know, give yourself grace. You know, take care of yourself.
I think that's the hardest thing.
Yes.
You know, but as you were saying, these are unprecedented times. It made me think about the other day when the children were asking me what the Great Depression was. And so I was explaining it the best I could. And I was like, well, it's a time when unemployment was at its highest ever. And there were more people houseless than ever. There were more people who were going hungry. And it's like, but then, as that was all happening, then World War II started. And then there was everybody killing everybody else, you know, around the world. Millions of Jewish people being held in concentration camps. And just all of this stuff kind of happening all at once. And I think about, you know, the times that we're going through, because we are profoundly aware of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in that time, and I'm not saying this was better or, you know, whatever. I'm just saying it was different because though people knew how shitty life was, there were all of these propaganda films that were supposed to make you go, you know, you're doing great, hang in there, we're winning the war, we're stamping out evil, we're blah, 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 you know, kind of rallying everybody going, you know, keep it up, you know, donate your
metal,
your nylons and your metal and your whatever for the cause, buy war bonds, do this because you can do your part. And it was a lot of movies at the time were kind of the same thing. It was like, look how amazing we are, look how strong we are, look how great we are.
Yeah. And
it's like, it was all just to prop up people who were failing. To people who were like, what is the point here? None of us have money or food or housing or a future, it looks like. And so it was all about the government going, we got to do something. We got to make everybody think that things are going better than they are. Because they're going very poorly. Well, you know, and now we don't have, I mean, we do have, the government tries to say, well, this and this and this is happening, but we can see what's happening.
Right. And
I think that's what's different is you can make as much propaganda as you want, but we can see what's happening because there's people out there with cameras and there's people.
Well, and let's boil it down. That propaganda has been how governments have pushed their citizens into action, right? And like, you're doing great. You're part of the solution, not the problem, whatever. But now, and politicians, Hillary Clinton, I can't think of the others because I don't care. But a lot of them, because of there's such a huge younger generation fighting for Palestine, right? And all these older people, and I don't even know what generation, but Hillary Clinton is older than you, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how old she is. But like this older generation being like, no one knows what they're talking about. They're less educated than, you know, we were about shit like this. And I'm like, no, that's all unequivocally false. One, we know more about what's going on than any generation before ever.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you we can see actively what's happening across the world because of the internet. So thank you to the internet, we have the truth. Also, we are the most educated that we've ever been as a nation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so don't say that we're not as educated. No, bitch. Maybe as your family, but like, en masse, we are becoming more and more educated. And so the fact, they're going to deter you. They're going to tell you don't know what you're talking about. They're going to tell you it's complicated. They're going to tell you that, you know, you need to have a degree or 2 decades of experience. You don't. You literally don't. Because every information you could ever want, there is propaganda. There's lies out there. But you could look up anything on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, anything. And again, be smart. Fact check shit. Do your due diligence. Read. If you go online, you Google anything and put .edu or type in academic journal, it'll bring you up things that are factual, things that have been researched, that have authors, that have been peer reviewed, meaning that people in the industry also read it and said stamp of approval, this is correct. You can find this truth out there, and a lot of it for free. And so don't listen to anyone telling you that you don't know what you're talking about, unless you genuinely don't. Like, do a little bit of research. But this older generation being like, kids these days, no, we're smarter than the older generation was at their age. 100%.
Well, I think about, okay, so my grandparents didn't even graduate elementary school.
Right.
Because, you know, farm. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, they went through some of grade school, learned to read and write.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Enough.
And then quit school when it was time to quit school and get jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and that was common then. So, yes, we are more, as a people, more educated than ever.
Yeah.
You know, and it is now expected that you'll be educated.
Yes.
It is not expected that you'll quit your job and go work on a farm.
No.
It is expected that you will go to college.
Yes.
It is expected, even for people where college really isn't right for them, it is expected you will go.
Yeah. Well, and getting a secondary education is like the only thing you can do. Whether at college, trade school, whatever.
Yeah.
But getting a secondary education is kind of the only route unless you want to work in retail, customer service,
Right.
whatever.
Right. Hillary, by the way, is 76.
Okay.
I want to tell you a little story that kind of is on the same vein as what we were talking about. But there's a man who I've been seeing on YouTube who is traveling the world.
Yeah.
He's traveling the world, but he's going to places where we might not think to go.
Sure.
Or where we've been told, you know, don't go because the people there hate us.
If it's not outside of our compound, then probably.
Right. And so I've seen him go to places where Americans don't tend to travel. Because, one, we're taught that those people, you know, are whatever. They're
those
horrible people.
Yeah.
Well, so the most recent one I watched, he went to Syria.
Oh, yeah.
And he said to go to Syria as an American is quite a process.
Yeah.
You have to be part of a tour group.
Oh.
And you can only go exactly where the tour goes. You can't go off anywhere on your own.
Interesting.
You have to apply for all the things, and your tour has to say, step by step, every single thing you are going to do.
Wow.
And, I mean, part of it can be you're going to this open-air shopping, whatever. But he said, going through Syria, the first thing you see is how many places just are bombed out.
Yeah.
Like, there are buildings that are, and they're still standing, but they're destroyed. And there are homes, and there are neighborhoods, and whatever, that are just gone. And he said, but when you get on the street, like you're going in an open-air market, getting food, he said, first of all, the food is amazing. Yeah. But he said, all of the people he encountered, and he said all, not some, but he said all of the people he encountered were very kind, and were very warm, and it's like the government wants you to believe people in the Middle East are a certain way, right? And he said even their government, the Syrian government, doesn't, there's no internet, or it's very controlled internet.
Yeah.
And all the information getting out is very controlled. And all the thing is all like, we're trying to keep a little cap on this. And he said, but even with all of that, when he was dealing with just the people, that he said they were all so warm and friendly and wonderful that we're not supposed to know that. We're not supposed to think these are just people. Yep. We're supposed to think these are the enemy. These are bad people.
Terrorists.
And he was
savages.
Like, no, they're just people. And then he's like, these are people trying to make a living. They're people who are trying to keep their traditions alive. There are people who are trying to just take care of their families.
After America bombed the fuck out of them.
People.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I know. Girl, and that's one thing I will tell you is that I love about I don't love anything about it. One thing I appreciate that's happening is the ideology and the nonsense we were fed after 9/11 of super Islamophobia, super xenophobia, hated everyone from the Middle East. Those Arabs are all terrorists and they just want to kill Americans, whatever. The Gazans are showing us that's not true. Do you know what I mean? They're showing us that they are steadfast in their devoutness to Allah, even through torturous wartime, like encampments. They are still performing wudu, which is like their 5 prayers a day. They still practiced Ramadan, which is fasting from sunup to sundown, and they didn't have fucking food. Like, they are loving each other and taking care of each other and raising children that aren't theirs and consoling mothers who've lost their entire families. Like, the Palestinians are showing us humanity and resilience when they have literally fucking nothing. Where they've been...
And none is being shown to them.
Where nothing is being shown to them. Where there is aid across a fucking border into the nation and they can't get it because it's being blocked by Israelis. Like, it is... If anything, Palestinians have showed us humanity and kindness and how to live on through tragedy. Like, and the craziest thing to me is that, Israel wants to scream about being so unsafe. Who do you think is making Israel more unsafe? Do you think it's the Palestinians who have lived there for generations who just want to live there? Or is it Israel who is bombing Lebanon and killing Palestinians? Do you think Israelis are safer because of Palestinians? Or do you think it's because of Israel? Israel's making Jewish people less safe.
Yeah.
Globally. Because you are equating Zionism in Israel with all Jewish people. And not all Jewish people are favorable of that. But you're saying for Israel to be safe, then Palestinians have to be exterminated. Then Israel will never be safe. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then Israelis will never be safe. If your safety is dependent on the extermination of a people, then you will never be safe. I'm sorry, but like, if you instead fought for the liberation of Palestinians and included them in, you know what I mean? And not a two-state nation, but everyone had citizenship, it would be very different. But that won't happen. No. Because it's run by white supremacists. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's my whole story, and I'm sticking to it.
It's a good story. I like it. I mean, I don't like it, but I like that. How informed and educated that you are on the topic.
Oh my God, thank you.
And on that note, we got to get the fuck up out of here.
Girl.
Because we've talked and talked.
Well, and I have to go get blood drawn. I didn't mention that. I was stabbed 3 separate times the other day for them to try and draw my blood. Not a single drop.
And I bet many people who've known you have wanted to stab you.
Yeah, and guess what? It did nothing to me, motherfuckers.
Not a drop of blood came out.
Nope.
Well,
I know, so I'm chugging water. So I got a pee-pee real bad.
Well, then we better get out of here. So that brings us to the end of another episode of... I didn't even do our little thing at the beginning.
Did it?
Oh my God! Of our
welcome to another episode of A Season Zone. Now it's the end. Goodbye.
All those things. So like, share, subscribe. If you subscribe, you will never miss an episode of our podcast. And if you share it with friends,
you won't.
If you share it with friends, then they'll get to hear how amazing we are too. And send us your emails at itwouldseemasthough@gmail.com.
Yes.
And we gotta get the fuck out.
Yeah, girl. I gotta go pee pee.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
It would seem as though